By now, I know that everybody's already heard that this sled exists, but let me just go over it a bit with you and tell you what it's all about. So to start, it is based on a Matrix platform, obviously, and this is a VR1. So the only version you can get with Patriot Boost is a VR1, and the VR1 comes with all the usual VR1 stuff, like walker velocity shocks with compression adjustability, 7S display, Pro CC skid frame, you know, all the same VR1 goodies that you get with a regular VR1. That's the only way you can get Boost. That's a great thing because this is a fantastic platform and a fantastic package. What is the weight penalty to have a two-stroke turbo? Well, Polaris claims it's only around 20 pounds, which is not very much, so that's pretty impressive. Obviously, you know, again, it's a Matrix platform. You get your awesome cutout running boards, excellent handling characteristics, probably some of the best ergonomics in the entire industry, if not the best in the industry. And I actually really like this whole black on black kind of color scheme that just says Patriot and Indy in red. I would say this though, most of Polaris models that have Boost, two-stroke Boost, the Boost is very, I'm not going to say subtle because it's really big here, but it's actually harder to see than you think it is. It blends in and you don't notice it right away. To me, I would have made this sled all black with Indy and Boost in red so that everybody can see it, so that when you pull up to the local stop, everybody knows you're the big dog. Don't bother racing me because I'm going to blow your doors off. Which brings me to my next point. Is it fast? Well, I've had some time on it. And yes, it's ridiculously fast. Honestly, it's crazy. We estimate that this thing's making somewhere in the neighborhood of 185 horsepower. Polaris doesn't make horsepower claims, which we think is a mistake. We've told them that we think that, but it's up to them. But based on the math that we do know and the numbers we do know and the math that they've given us, 10% more power than a regular naturally aspirated 850, we figure this thing is somewhere in the 185 horsepower range, and it feels like it has all of that. But what's interesting about it is that the horsepower doesn't come on all at once and just stretch your arms and make you feel like you're going to fly off the back. It does do that, but not right off not right off engagement. From engagement up to probably 30 miles an hour, it's actually, maybe even more than that, maybe 40, 50 miles an hour. It's actually very, very mellow. The power is totally controllable. It actually feels more mellow than a naturally aspirated 850. So you can totally trail ride this sled all day without getting tired. It's not going to tire you out. It's not going to be annoying. It's not going to be constantly surging and lurching forward. It just doesn't do that. I guess the transfer between, you know, non-turbocharged power as the Boost begins to pick up is seamless. It's invisible. And I think that that's the way to do a two-stroke turbo trail sled. I think that's the way to do any kind of high horsepower trail sled, whether it's a four-stroke turbo or a two-stroke turbo or not. I think that that's the way to do it, because what is this sled really? Well, this sled really is a trail sled. That's what this sled is for. Is it going to be a lake racer? Of course it's going to be a lake racer, and it very well could be the fastest one in the industry. I think that that's a very real possibility, that this is going to be the fastest production snowmobile ever made. Time will tell. But first and foremost, this is a VR1 Matrix, so it's meant to be a great trail set, and it is. The 20-pound increase in weight doesn't change how it handles on the trail at all. It's still absolutely predictable. It's still absolutely spot-on cornering. It bites hard. It goes where you point it, and it doesn't affect the ride quality. It still rides great. Everything about the Matrix that we love, this hasn't changed one bit. It'll just lift the skis at about 60 miles an hour whenever you want to when that Boost kicks in. Now, how do you know it's a Boost other than the Boost on the side panel? Realistically, you don't. And that's one of the cool things Polaris was able to do with this sled, is that they fit the entire Boost engine package within the regular Matrix bodywork. So from the outside, there are no indications that this is a Boost. It just looks like every other Matrix on the trail. I'm a huge fan of sleeper vehicles. I love sleeper cars. I love sleeper everything. This is, my opinion, a sleeper sled. You can't tell right away that it's got 185 horsepower. So you line up beside this guy, I think you're going to beat him, and you're going to be very, very wrong. The only other way to tell that it's a turbo is on the gauge, one of the widgets now. So you can have, you know, your battery readout, you can have your fuel, engine temps and all that kind of stuff, there's now a boost gauge widget that you can pull up and put on your 7S display, and I definitely suggest you make sure that's on there all the time because it's super fun to watch it go full boost. Speaking of boost, Polaris says that this thing will run maximum 9 psi, and I know for a lot of 4-stroke guys who like to crank up boost on their 4-stroke turbos, that seems like not very much. It doesn't need to be a lot with this motor, and the way the 2-stroke works, the way the 2-stroke interacts with the turbo, it doesn't need to be more than that. There's going to be guys out there trying to crank these things up. We already know that. But as it sits just like this, stock form, it's just incredible. I will say that it's probably not going to be very good on gas, but you're not buying 185 horsepower for the fuel mileage. You're buying it for the fun, and you're going to get a ton of fun with this thing. It's difficult to come up with other stuff to talk about in a walk around because this is just a standard Polaris VR1. It just has a different motor package. So realistically, there's not much else to say. It's stupid fast. It handles and rides great. It is totally controllable. It doesn't, throw you off the back. I actually find this kind of amusing because of course it takes the, accessories on the back like all Polaris VR1s do or all Polaris Matrix chassis do. So you could put a 2-up seat on this thing and take your wife for a ride with 185 horsepower and probably you'll still beat most people down the lake with her on the back screaming and freaking out. So there's all kinds of crazy possibilities for what you can do with this thing. I'm amped, I'm stoked, I can't wait to put 1,000,000 miles on it, and I'm really excited to just run everything back to back, side to side, and find out just what is the fastest production trail sled ever. Is it still the competition, or has Polaris now taken over that crown? Time will tell. So in the beginning, I promised you guys some interesting information that would make it worthwhile sticking around to the end. So here's the information. And this is something I got from a Polaris engineer. We were talking about motors. We were talking about boosted motors. And he was giving me the reason why boosted motors can make boosted 2-stroke specifically have that endless power feel where the power just never seems to run out. And the reason is this, and this is, I don't think this is secret information, but it's certainly not something I've ever heard. So basically a big displacement 2-stroke can't suck enough air in to fill the cylinder with enough air to continue making horsepower, for the horsepower curve to continue on, or even for it to level out at high horsepower. At certain RPM levels, the horsepower has to start dropping because the engine can't breathe well enough. Well, when you think about it, a turbo solves that problem entirely because it is literally forcing air into the engine. There's no problem with how much can it suck because it just gets it all forced right in there. And that's what the secret behind why this sled just feels like it has endless power on top and it never stops pulling. So that may be common knowledge to some of you. To me, it was new knowledge. I hope it was interesting for you guys because it was definitely something that was interesting to me. And I know before we end this walk around, you guys got to hear this thing run. I can't, unfortunately, let you hear the 2-stroke turbo flutter because you got to be up on the pipe for that to happen. But I can let you hear how it runs. So let's hear it. There you go. Hope you liked it as much as I do.